Okay, we're going to tie a March Brown wet. This is a very effective wet fly tied on a 3906B mustad hook, sizes 10 to 14. You start your thread just about the size of the eye, behind the eye, trim that off, and then we'll rotate this upside down so that we can attach the Pearsall's Marabou Gossamer Silk. This is a traditional floss you'd use. All full 4 strands of this for size 10 and 12 hooks, and probably separate it out to 2 strands if you tie in either 14s or 16s. And we're going to get some material now for the tail. I've got a wood duck flank feather here. I'm just going to tear off some fibers. I want 5 or 6. If I've got a couple extra, I'll just peel them off. And then just clump this together and pinch it between my fingers and size it to the hook. And I want my tail on this to be approximately the length of the shank. Tie that down and check it. And wrap forward and trim that off. And we got the tail and the ribbing material on here, and I'll put that ribbing material in the material clip. Okay, and with that done, I'll move the thread to about the midpoint of the hook shank and prepare to do a dubbing loop dubbed body on this. And I'll show you the tool I'm going to use. It's a Renzetti tool with a shepherd's hook on one end and a pick on the other. Very handy for this particular type of fly because of the ribbing and picking in between the ribs. So I'll hook the thread down into the shepherd's hook of the tool, come up here with my thread and tie off the top of the loop, and get my finger in there to open the thread up a little bit and put some wax on here. Don't need very much wax, mostly just to hold the hair in there when you have to let go of it for just a second while you reposition it in the thread, and the wax serves to keep it from just falling out of the loop. I'll get that opened up, bring this hair in here. You can see this hair has been oriented, and it's not a noodle at all. It's kind of a flat carded clump of hair that's long and narrow. I'll get this down and spin this up a little bit and show you about the number of rotations, or just how much I spin this stuff up. This is a mix of hare's ear and red squirrel, by the way. And with that twisted, bring my bobbin cradle up, put my thread over it, and let me show you how I kind of oriented this. You can see I just have a clump of hair here. I'm just going to pinch and pull straight apart on this clump and keep repositioning it so that the fibers are sort of oriented in the directions that I'm pulling, and I thin it out and place it down below itself, and I start to get a long band of hair as opposed to a clump that I started with. And it's not a noodle at all. It's a band of flattened hair, somewhat oriented and intermixed. So with that done, and the thread hanging out over there, I can wrap to the back using up the excess thread that I had. I'll stroke some of these fibers back so that I don't trap them down against the hook shank as I wrap. And wrap up to the front and tie this off by coming up behind it, and then a wrap in front of it, come up behind and over the top again, and a wrap in front, and you're good and solid. You know that's not going to come loose. I can cut it without any worry. I'll rotate this down now and build a little bit of a thread bed, a tapered head here to contain everything. Few more more hairs here than I need, or a little longer than I need, so I'll just kind of neaten it up now. I'm just going to let my thread hang and unwrap as I do my spiral wraps for my rib. Do 4 or 5 wraps here. See how I'm wiggling it, trying to make sure I don't trap down too many hair strands or fibers. Again, I'll come up behind this material, a couple wraps in front of it, transfer underneath, come up behind it, and a couple wraps in front of it. Nice and secure, I can trim it off. And I'll show you one of the advantages here in a second of this dubbing tool that I used. This is pretty spiky and picky all as it is, without a lot of extra picking, but this dubbing pick is nice in that it's very narrow and you can get in between bands of ribbing material like this and not damage the ribbing material while you make your fly that much buggier. Now, I've got a draftsman tool here that was used for spacing, I believe, to get equal spacing on things, and that's just what I'm going to use it for here. I've set it so that it's equal to the gap of the hook, and I'll take one wing feather from a turkey and use the tool to get a piece separated out from those fibers, and now I've got the opposing one, and the tool is set to the exact width so I can cut. I know when I cut this out I'll have 2 matching sections of quill fibers. And I'll just set this one here. I'll show you an easy way to pick a quill fiber segment up. Just wet your fingertip and touch it to it, and you can pick it right up off tabletop or wherever you happen to have set it down. I'm going to match the tips of these together if I can. And with that done, they look to be fairly well matched. I'll gauge my length on here. I'm going to rotate. Watch, I'll make a little mistake here. You're going to see the beginning of a problem. I don't have my thread ready, so I'm going to back up, and then I'm going to tie a kind of a smooth bed for this thing. Only I didn't do a smooth bed. I should have kept wrapping and made a little bit more of a taper there, and you'll see I'll pay for that later on. So I'm going to rotate this so that I'm looking right down on my tie-in point. I can see that I've got my pinch technique down. I got my thread right where I want it. I tighten this up, and that wing's too small. I didn't match it up too good. I'm not having real good luck here, but when you make a mistake like this, all you can do is, hey, take it off and reset it. So again, I'll do the turn and look, do the pinch technique, set that down. I can see it didn't rotate at all. It stayed right on top. It twists a little bit there, but hey, I like that length better. Straighten that out. Right on top. I can check and see that's the rotary feature. Just keep turning that vise and using the rotary feature, your vise. I mean, it's just handy. Get in here and trim that off. Should take my own advice and make it easier to cut by rotating. Anyway, now here's where I pay the price of not building a taper underneath. I've got this clump now of material that I had to wrap up onto, and my own fault. I should have seen it when I did it. Now I can't wrap down off of this. I have to instead get the thread out in front of it and build up onto it. You can't wrap down off a cliff like this that you've created. You have to wrap up onto it. Keep building in front and coming back up until you can get up on top where you need to be able to tie on your hackle collar that comes next. Now this is going to be my collar. It's just a hen hackle. Take the tip, separate it out like this, tie it in, stroke it to the rear, and trap it. And it's folded over and locked in. You won't have to worry about that coming out at all. Got to still worry about breaking the quill, but you don't have to worry about it coming out from underneath the thread that way. So I'm just making 1.5 wraps here, so I'll just do this with my fingers. I should have, again, I'm just not having much luck on this fly. I should have paid more attention, I guess. I should have used my hackle pliers. It's a nice flexible quill, but it's not that long. And pardon my fingers, I come up underneath that and trap that quill stem. 2 wraps, rotate it to the top so I don't have to worry about cutting my thread, and then say, hey, I can't get in there to cut it anyway, so I'll snap it off. You have to hold your thread tight when you snap like that, and snap against the thread. So stroke those fibers back, get them in position. Straighten some of these out. You can see this is a nice soft hackle. These inexpensive hen bodies or hen backs are great for this fly because it often is tied in the larger sizes of the 10, 12. Just good use for those hen backs. Okay, and there you have it. There's a March brown wet tied using rotary fly tying techniques.